I must be frank with you. How I was introduced to you, not in person, but through the committee engagement of you having to come here. And I must be frank with you, I hate how you introduced yourself to us. As someone who encountered you for the first time, you came across as very rude. You came across as someone with a disregard for us in the legislature and the executive. Then when I listened to you and you testified, you further confirmed that here in how you addressed our leaders, for example, our President, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, by addressing him on a first name basis. Then your posture of dictating conditions to us created a perceived expression of a default colonialist mental setting. But Mr. O'Sullivan, no matter how I feel personally about how you've been introduced to me, and it's important that I remind myself why I'm here. I'm not here to assess how your behavioral conduct is or the lack thereof, but I'm here to test the submissions that you put before me or before us. And when I look at the submissions that you put before us, no matter how I feel about your posture and your demeanor, I cannot ignore, when I read your submissions, your heroism. I cannot ignore your sacrifice and your immense contribution in your fight for justice in our country. And so if I strictly just look at that and look away from how I was introduced to you and your perceived posture, I want to say to you, based on what I read here, thank you very much for your sacrifice. You're a hero. But like I told Mr. McBride, even heroes have holes. Our shared Christian faith teaches us about Jesus, who's more than the hero, is an actual savior. Yet even Jesus had holes in his body. But the difference with Jesus was when Thomas doubted him, he was willing to let Thomas feel the holes and test it for authenticity. And he still ascended into heaven with holes. Now, this committee process, I feel, is here to test those holes and also to affirm the truth and test what you've put to us, whether it's the truth. So that's how we're going to start, Mr. Sullivan. My first question to you, given your access, given your access and your executive appointments without tertiary qualification, did you benefit from the apartheid system in terms of opportunities because you are white?
So my approach to that is that I didn't.
Sorry?
My response to that would be that I did not approach or benefit from the apartheid system because I'm white. However, I want to qualify that, because if I have to be brutally honest with you, in the initial years when I came in South Africa, and sorry, I'm in a bit of pain. When I first came in South Africa, it might be construed that I did benefit from the apartheid system, because it might be that after 1994, it might be that I would not have received permanent residence. It might be that the rules changed and I would not have qualified for permanent residence. But after democracy took place, I threw myself headlong into trying to help the previously disadvantaged community in South Africa. And I'm still doing it today, by the way. And I don't publish any of this. I don't go to the media and say, look at what I'm doing here. There's an informal settlement near my house in Sandton. There's about 175 people living there, and some of them are school children. And every Christmas and every Easter, we put on parties for the children. In addition to that, they don't have electricity. So I purchased solar panels and put them on the roofs. And the year before last, I donated a very large gas braai facility for them. I communicated with the city of Johannesburg and asked them to put in, and they did put in, 3 toilet blocks and sewage. I managed to get that done for them. And I still, to this very day, communicate on a regular basis with those people. And I've been trying to assist them, but that's just one project. There are other projects as well.
Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, sorry.
No doubt. What you've now added is you're not just heroic, you're not just a hero, you're also a compassionate one.
Yeah.
And I'm not disputing that. What I'm dealing with that question is that, let's be logical. When someone like me sits and I look at how is it that you held executive positions without the necessary qualifications, the only answer that's plausible is that the system at the time benefited you because you were white. If I look at the letter that was written on your behalf by the Member of Parliament, the tone of the letter also speaks to the fact that there is an understanding that because you're a white man, there would be some concession and benefit in terms of opportunity. The MP says in the letter, you'd be a great benefit to white people in South Africa. When you write, you make sure to stress that you are learning Afrikaans. There's an undertone of intentionalism based on how the apartheid regime would give opportunity to white people in senior positions without qualification. Now let me qualify to you that I put that to you, that the reason why that was overlooked is because you are white in an apartheid system. But what you did with it is that when you entered the door, you then used your entry to fight crime, to fight corruption, and to do what you've just explained to me now. Even in our system now, the system benefits certain people that hold senior positions without the necessary qualifications. But some of them are using it for corruption. So it is from that angle that I come from to say that the apartheid regime has benefited you. Now, before we delve into your evidence, yesterday you testified that in the spirit of transparency, you testified yesterday that a Mr. Mia spoke to Mr. Nare and said that the general will get them out. He's in the pockets of, you mentioned the name, I forgot the name. I received a message yesterday from Mr. Mia's wife stating, after she heard your testimony, somehow found my contacts and shared with me that her husband says, when Mr. Mia was arrested on the 9th of January 2014, there was no instance at any stage where he met Jacob Nare during the arrest process. At the time, he was not even aware that Jacob Nare had been arrested. He only first saw him later at the Weinberg court on Monday, the 13th of January. What's your response to that, Mr. Sauls?
Chair, I wasn't involved in that took place at that moment in time. My involvement in that was that at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning on the 9th of January, at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, it was daylight, the sun was just coming up. I had received information that there would be an attempt to kill me that morning. So I had decided to evacuate my family from the house the night before. I'd moved them somewhere else. And I left my cellular phone inside the house. And the reason I did that was because the information I received was that crime intelligence individual who has since been arrested and detained was working with the people that were planning to kill me. And the team of people that were planning to kill me, it's alleged, and there's a trial going on. One of them is this chap, Mr. Mia. And when they were all arrested, unbeknown to me, this fellow called Nair or Neri, Jacob Nari or Jacob Nair, I don't know how you say it. I used to call him Jacob Nair. The crime intelligence colonel, a person by the name of Kimber, I can't remember his first name, but he had a nickname which was Killer Kimber. And they had already been working together with this chap, Jacob. And he had provided, and he had made recordings of discussions he was having with them. And he made a sworn statement stating that which I alleged yesterday. And I've seen that because it's part of the docket against Radovan Krejcir and the 7 other people that were out that day to have me murdered.
All right.
So that's, I have no first-hand knowledge. I wasn't present when these things were said, but I've seen the sworn statement.
All right. Now let's begin by debunking the allegation here that you were paid from the Secret Service Fund. Now I've read this statement and I have a different view from what has been said earlier. So just so that we confirm, the document that you have that we were given by Honorable James, that document, you did not produce it to the committee. It was brought by Honorable James, and today is the first day you see it, correct?
The first time I've seen it today.
Right. So you are not using this document in order to make us see you in a certain way, because you've never seen this document.
That's correct, sir.
Now let's go. I think it's important for us to debunk this. This document says a request for an advance from the DSO confidential funds. But if you look at what you produced or gave us on page 282.
282.
Yes. If you look at that attachment.
So let me just go to it.
282.
Okay.
If you look at that attachment, this money for the transfer for the procurement of a multi-center payment that was made from the secret fund. It is listed there as secret services account.
Correct.
So would you agree with me then that if this document that you were given, if this money, this 100,000 came from the secret or the slush fund, it should have had written on it the secret services account and not what is written on here, the DSO confidential fund. Would you agree? So the money that you were paid was not from the secret services account.
No, it came from now. I didn't know where it came from then, but now I can see it came from the Scorpions confidential funds.
Absolutely.
which
And
was
that's
the
not,
National Prosecuting Authority.
and that's not the secret services fund.
No, the Secret Service account is run and managed and controlled by the police, not the NPA.
Yes. So we are debunking the notion that you were paid from the secret services account based on what was produced here.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit further. If you look at the document, it says that because of your information, cannabis weighing 1,114 kilograms was discovered.
Cannabis or hashish?
Both.
Okay. So I haven't.
On page 4. I don't want us to
say I haven't read this document.
Mr. O'Sullivan.
Okay.
I don't want us to spend a lot of time
Okay.
here. I just want to use what was given here, not by yourself, to debunk the notion that you're not a credible witness. On page 4, it says there, in a document, not that a document that you produced, it says the combined value of the 767 kilogram of hashish and the 1,114 kilogram of cannabis confiscated by the DSO amounts to 56 million, which is only part of the full consignment valued at more than 200 million rand. So your efforts and what you have provided has allowed the DSO to seize money or things to the value of 56 million in comparison to 100,000 that you have been given. I end with this. On page 5, the document that was produced here by Honorable James says, Mr. Solomon, for this, he made use of his own camera, vehicle, and aircraft rental. O'Sullivan funded all his own operational costs. O'Sullivan effectively beat SAPS at what they were expected to do.
Sorry, what page is this?
That is page 5. Not a document that you produced, evidence that was produced by others. This document says of you on page 6, it says Mr. O'Sullivan did not give this information for financial gain. With him, it is a matter of principle. It is acknowledged that O'Sullivan and Commissioner Celebi are at loggerheads, but this information has been properly handed to the DSO and independently verified by Mr. O'Sullivan. Mr. O'Sullivan has a motive of revenge against Commissioner Celebi, but this case, other than him being a policeman, does not at this stage aim in any way to implicate Celebi directly. It is recommended that Mr. O'Sullivan be paid an amount of 100,000 as a reward in lieu of his time, effort, money, successful recovery of a large consignment of drugs, and the prosecution of the syndicate. So not only was that consignment retrieved, but there was also 4 arrests made. Leslie Ellen Curtis was arrested and given 10 years imprisonment. Chris Alblas, 10 years imprisonment. Petro McKee's 30 months imprisonment. A document not that you've produced, but that was given here by Honorable James, shows you to have contributed largely to the fight against crime. I was just trying to use that to debunk the notion that you misled the committee in saying that you didn't receive the funds from the slush fund. Now that there is some pointing to you as a credible witness, I want you to help me now quickly, and I want you to be very concise, Mr. Solomon. When you looked at the press conference of General Mkhwanazi, what impression did that give you? Very concisely.
It gave me the impression, and I stated this, it gave me the impression that he was planning a military coup.
So as an expert of forensics and fraud and your experience in the military and police, what was your major concern for the country and the safety and security of this country when you saw that?
Well, Chair, I'm trying to give a quick answer, but I have to qualify it because at the time when he gave that media conference, I knew of his history because he had been involved in this incident that took place at IPED. So I knew that he wasn't this knight in shining armor that he was portraying himself to be. And when I read between the lines, and I don't know if it's true, but I believe it's true, I'm the only person that paid somebody to have that whole press conference transcribed. And the transcription is included in my annex sheets. And that transcription makes it clear that that whole media conference was intended to create the impression that there was a faction war. When I say war, a faction fight between what I would class as the Mkhwanazi team on the one side, and that team would have included General Masemola and General Khumalo, and the other team on the other side was, according to General Masemola, according to General Mkhwanazi, included General Sabia, the head of IDAC. I don't remember the names, but he said certain judges and prosecutors who were in the pocket of a big five cartel. And I formed the opinion that this was a whole distraction. And the distraction, by the way, if you look at the transcript, it's clear that the main gripe he has was that people in crime intelligence had been arrested and charged with corruption on what he considered to be HR issues. And I saw this whole media conference as being a red herring to distract everybody's attention away from the ongoing theft of public funds from the crime intelligence slush fund. And in order to do that, we create chaos. What is the purpose of having the whole of the senior management? If you're going to have a media conference, why do you need the whole of the senior management of the KZN police? Why do you need to have 8 people, 4 on each side of you, or 6 on each side of you, dressed in combat uniform, wearing face masks? The whole thing was staged managed. And the only purpose, in my opinion, of that conference was to destabilize further the already unstable criminal justice system.
On page 217, you don't need to go there. I hope that you can remember just because of time. There are affidavits from a few officers about the Fort Hare affidavits.
Mm-hmm.
These are members in the PKTT.
That's correct.
Why did you submit that evidence? What are you trying to tell us?
Because these were sent to me.
And it was sent in 2024, I see. It was not sent. So the motivation for sending it was not after the press conference. It was before the press conference.
Correct.
What is the contents of those affidavits?
The contents of the affidavits, as I explained earlier, Chairman, are that a person who was actually the main suspect in that particular leg of the investigation was bribing the members of the PKTT. He was supplying, I can't remember who got what, but 10,000 to one guy, 2,500 to another, 5,000 to another, and a bag of new clothes to another. And if a suspect is going to be providing gratification to people that are supposed to be investigating these crimes, it ends up being a distraction. It creates a loyalty between the person paying the gratification. Because with gratification, there's always what we call a quid pro quo, which means I scratched your back, now you must scratch mine.
Are you testifying to this committee that affidavits was given to you by members of the PKTT, some members in the PKTT, admitting that they have been receiving bribes?
No, Chairman. The affidavits were given to me by a member of the PKTT who knew about these bribes and didn't want to be a party of it, and he sent them to us.
But essentially the contents points to the fact that some PKTT members are receiving bribes.
That's correct, Chairman.
You then, 2025, there was another affidavit by someone named Nenji. Briefly, just concisely tell us about that affidavit on page 310. Once again, this affidavit is dated February 2025. So your motivation here, once again, could not be because of the press conference of General Mkonazi. You had this affidavit before the press conference and before the committee was formed. Take us through it quickly.
Chairman, it's quite a long affidavit. But am I allowed to just give you a synopsis of it?
If you can do it very briefly, Mr. Solomon, I'd appreciate it.
The synopsis of it is, this fellow called Nangi, or Nanji, I don't know how to say it. And I've never met the person. I've spoken to his attorney, and his attorney wouldn't discuss the case with me. We received that document anonymously, once again. You can go on our website. You're able to upload documents anonymously. And we have a toll-free line that enables people to provide information anonymously. Now, the affidavit of this fellow Nangi or Nanji is, according to him, because it's an affidavit, according to him, he's innocent of all the charges that have been alleged against him. However, we keep an open mind on that because it may well be that he was involved in the crimes that he's accused of, which is allegedly kidnapping and demanding a ransom for the return of the person that's been kidnapped. And according to his affidavit, he was kidnapped and brought to different locations, not booked in terms of the police regulations. The police regulations require that if a person is arrested, they must be booked in to a police station and into the SOP 14 register immediately. You can't wait 3 or 4 days. So he was taken from A to B and C to D, and the people involved in this kidnapping were private security industry people, together with police officers from crime intelligence. And the last leg of this gentleman, well, I use the term gentleman loosely. The last leg of this gentleman's journey, according to his affidavit, was he found himself at what he describes as a black site. which was a farm somewhere in KZN. And whilst he was on that farm with another co-accused, the two of them were kept in separate rooms, and they were alternately tortured. And the torturing he describes in detail included what's known as waterboarding, where they put a plastic bag over the head and they put a tube in the bag and pour water into the bag so you feel like you're drowning. And you can't breathe, so you actually can lose consciousness. And that he alleges that happened several times. He alleges that he was very badly assaulted, and there's photographs showing the nature of the assault that took place against him, and that a pair of garden scissors, I think he means these shears that you cut the grass with or the hedge with, were used to assault him in his testicles to the point that he was bleeding in his urine. And finally, he said that while all this was going on, the senior cop that was there, Colonel Darwood, who has, to my knowledge, a history of this type of conduct, and I know that for a fact, because that's the same Colonel Darwood that kidnapped Sarah Jane Trin from our offices in February 2017. And the same Colonel Darwood was involved in an unlawful arrest of me. And the same Colonel Darwood was involved in the unlawful arrest of Advocate Gerry Nel about the time when he wanted to prosecute Jackie Celebi. But the most telling part is that at this black site, this farm, he alleges that General Mkhonasi was there. And in General Mkhonasi's presence, Darwood continued assaulting him. He doesn't allege that General Mkhonasi assaulted him, but he did allege that General Mkhonasi told him that the other co-accused, a person by the name of Malotshwa, he said Malotshwa should have been better off committing suicide because of the torture that he's going to be facing. And Darwood allegedly, according to the statement, phoned Nangi's wife on the phone without realizing that Nangi's wife recorded the call.